So I've been using my Back to Roots aquaponic fish tank for the last 2 months, and I just wanted to give an honest review, what I think it's good for, what I don't think it's so good for, and hopefully that can help you make a decision if it's right for you. Pull it into the frame here. There we go. So it's not looking so good. We're not gonna lie. And full disclosure, I kind of set this thing up and just let it do its thing. I'll move the camera around and kind of show you a better view of it in a second. But I just wanted to see what would happen if you set it and forget it. It says that it's self-cleaning, so I have done nothing to this. I let the radish microgreens just kind of do their thing and they died. So we'll come back to that in a minute. So this was the radish microgreens. There were 2 tomatoes. One is there and the other dead one is right there. And then this was the wheatgrass. I honestly didn't think the tomatoes were going to do great. Not enough nutrients in here definitely to sustain these, but I wanted to try it. They're just the micro hat tomatoes, so they were very tiny. So they did sprout. They got even under an inch tall, and then they promptly died. The radish microgreens were doing pretty good. These are meant to be harvested at 7 and 14 days. They're not meant to be left here for 2 months to just see what happens. To take out all of the plant material that is left, and then I guess they want you to kind of get new leca. But they did say you can reuse it, but you have to put it in hot water, completely remove any of the plant material, which I can see being a bit of a pain in the butt. And if you're having to change out the leca every 7 to 14 days when you're harvesting the microgreens, that's going to get pretty expensive and fiddly if you're just going to keep cleaning it. So I think that's one thing to consider. I'm not sure that if I was growing microgreens that I would really be using this as the source of doing it. It's great for a fish tank, like the fish seems happy enough in there. So full disclosure, when I was setting this up, I did go ahead and put in some live plants. So I don't know if that's thrown off the balance. From what I can see, at least, is definitely not self-cleaning. There is some algae that is building up on the sides. Again, this has been 2 months. I wanted to really see what would happen. They do mention every month to take out the pump and rinse it out just to make sure that there's no buildup on there and that it's able to cycle the water through and move it up to the top so that the plants are getting fed. So I'm going to go ahead and try and clean out the leca to see how much of a pain in the butt it is. And then I'm going to reseed this again with some more microgreens. I'm actually going to see about putting some of my potted plants in there, some of the ones that can root easily, because I think that might be a much better use of this. Do mention in the instructions that you can use it for houseplants. I just think then you don't have to worry about constantly cleaning out the leca, because you want to make sure if you are going to be eating it that you're not getting any contamination or anything in there. But with houseplants, you're not going to have to worry about that. But definitely at first, everything was growing great. I have some footage I'll put in here so you can see how good and lush everything was looking. In my opinion, it seems to be meant for things that are going to only grow short term. Like the tomatoes didn't stand a chance. One thing I really do appreciate is a little feeding hole on top. It would be really difficult to get in there and feed the fish otherwise. Another thing that they mention if you are going to be reseeding, you don't want to go ahead and change out more than one of the leca pods each day. So a lot of the beneficial bacteria that are going to help make this system work are going to build up in those leca pods. So if you were to go ahead and clean them all out on the same day, you would risk removing that bacteria from the system, which could then throw it out of whack. If you were just going to be growing microgreens in here, you could succession plant them. So maybe plant the radish or whichever type of microgreens you're using on day 1, then maybe wait until day 3 or 4, plant the second pod, and then on day 8, go ahead and plant that third one. So then when you're harvesting the first one, you can clean it all out, get it reseeded, and then you're just doing it in sequence. That will help maintain the bacteria within the system. Okay, so I have taken out all the residual plant material that was on top, and I'm going to take this one out. It just lifts right out. You can see there's a bit of residue in there. I'm going to take this into the bathroom, run it under some really hot water, give it all a good scrub, pick out any of the residual plant bits that are left in the leca, and then we can reseed this and get this going again. All right, so that is all rinsed out. It took me about 10 minutes. There was definitely a lot of residue in there. One thing I really found is that the seed pods from the radishes were all mixed in with the leca, and they're kind of like the tiny bits of leca. So you got to really make sure to get them all out, and then rinsing, and the roots were all in there. You definitely have to take it out, dump the leca into a bowl, and scrub down the entire pod. Not horrible, but it definitely takes some time. So I still have a bunch of the radish microgreens left, so I'm going to go and definitely reseed this one. And then in about 3 days, I'm going to clean this one out and seed it. And this one, I'm actually going to clean out and put one of my houseplants in there. I'll just take some of those. And that's it, all reseeded. We'll give this a couple days to get growing, and I still need to get some of that cleaning done down there. You can just lift the whole top off, and then you can get access to the pump. So it's not all fed through this whole thing where it becomes a pain in the butt to get access to it. So that makes it a little bit easier to clean out. So I'm just gonna take the pump out and give it a rinse, and then I'm gonna start taking out some of this water, not all of it, and give the sides a bit of a scrub to clean it up a bit. I just finished cleaning out the wheatgrass, and I'm going to put a piece of my pothos in there. One thing I did notice with the wheatgrass, a little more finicky to clean out. When you pull it out, the leca gets really into the roots, which didn't happen with the radish microgreens. Just make sure when you're cleaning out the wheatgrass that you cover the drain. You don't want any of the leca kind of falling down in there, or better yet, put it through a sieve or something that's going to keep it a little bit more contained. So all cleaned out, reseeded, and I will check back in a later video to show you guys how we're doing. Maybe it's say 4 months, and see if we've figured this whole system out. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more information, and you can make the decision on whether you think this tank is right for you. If you're only wanting a little bit of microgreens, I can see it work as long as you don't mind doing the cleaning, and I would definitely suggest you do the succession planting. Maybe not a fully self-cleaning system, or at least it wasn't for me. Is the pump in this can be kind of loud, or actually it's not the pump so much, it's the water falling into the top as it's brought up by the pump. But if you want to know the trick I figured out to kind of keep that quiet, because I was finding it extremely distracting, you can check it out in my video where I set up the whole tank, and you can watch that coming up.